Hello, this is Matthew out in a beautiful park, and today I wanted to talk about some reflections of a 25-year-old. Because yesterday was my birthday, and for me, birthdays lead to some reflection. So I wanted to kind of share some, I guess, just phrases, learnings that I've done through my life that have kind of carried me to a place that I'm quite happy with and that will hopefully uh, carry me further to a fulfilling life. Because I think that's all we kind of want at the end of the day. We want to feel fulfilled and um, just kind of be happy. Um, I have a big notebook of all them all, and I guess I'll just start kind of reading and spitballing some reflections. um, I think when you get to the age of 25, by now, almost everyone probably has experienced death in their life. And depending upon who you talk to, they kind of sat with that idea and ruminated over the idea of death, or have kind of just like brushed it aside. Um, I guess kicking the can down the road. They don't want to think about it yet. But for myself, I was exposed to quite a lot of it through my life. Like, I don't know, like grandparents passing away, or like soccer coaches passing away, even, or even just some colleagues and friends at university um, that just passed away, And you're kind of like, maybe you don't have any direct friends. Like for myself, I don't necessarily have like very direct friends that happened to, but I definitely have friends who have direct friends. And I think by this age, at least for myself, I've become very aware of death, and I've kind of become very grateful for just living, and kind of with knowing that there is an end gives me the power to kind of act now and not wait for tomorrow, and maybe take more risks, calculated risks, and like not be afraid to like really fail, because at the end of the day, why does it matter? Like, you have a shot, so take it, you know? And I think that this kind of world of death is kind of, as grim as it sounds, it kind of set the groundwork um, for my other appreciations, and like, I don't know, I don't even want to say framework, for this is such an engineering way to put it, but like, it just grounds me. And I've talked to my friends about it, and like, they don't nearly think about it as much as I do, but for me, it really sets the center stage for kind of everything else. Um, and as you'll see, as my other reflections come, I think it clearly kind of builds from it. And it is a heavy thing. For myself, I probably like sat on it for and processed it for like 4 to 6 years straight, and it wasn't fun. But then, kind of coming out of this out of it, onto the other side, uh, it's quite nice. Um, and as a result, I feel like this kind of goes into the second reflection, and especially like with the brain development and solidifying at age 25, you start to, I guess, just realize that you have free will, and that you can create a life for yourself however you want it to be. And of course, there are like constraints and limitations that like life may throw at you, but they exist no matter what. And it's kind of up to you to navigate the minefields of it all and figure out a path forward, because at the end of the day, like, you're the person in the driver's seat. Like, you have free will. And I know there's some philosophical talks about like, do you actually have free will? And I don't have to get into that now. I believe that you do, and I think it's very powerful to just realize that you can get up and change your life right now, you know, and go travel the world tomorrow, leave it all behind, or like, but it just takes like a little bit of courage. And to me, that courage kind of derives back from like the reflection point number one, where it's like, you don't have the finite time, you know, or you only have finite time, and like, what are you waiting for? Um, um, and then I guess a reflection three is on working hard. And sometimes when you do work hard, you do not get the results that you want. And yes, that is true. It is tough out in this world called life, and you can be working as hard as you can and just fail and fail and fail. But and it's difficult to like, it's very tiring to keep working hard, and but at the end of the day, like, if you keep pushing and pushing, I do believe like you'll come out on the other side with some victories. There is no way that it will not happen. And it kind of even goes to my fourth reflection point of like what luck is in life. And people often don't want to acknowledge luck as a factor in life, but I think it's a huge facet for success, and success looks differently for everyone, but I think luck just plays a huge role in a lot of our worlds. And in order to get more luck, it's actually very easy. You just keep showing up. You keep showing up and getting exposed to different situations, and eventually luck will find you. If you show up one time, the probability of luck showing up just that one time, it's not likely. But the more that you do it, the more chances that you get. A terrible analogy, because I don't really like gambling, is kind of like a lottery ticket. It's like you're the first ticket that you get, you're probably not going to win, but like if you get 1,000,000,000,000 tickets, you'll probably win. So that's like both a terrible and good analogy. I don't condone gambling. And you also want to like work hard in a very sustainable way. Going to another reflection point. I don't even know what we're on right now. You also want to work hard in a very sustainable way, because blowing up, and what I mean by that is like you get super burnt out and you kind of just have to stop and quit. It's kind of your worst nightmare. It sucks. And you want to work hard in a way that kind of lets you have some liberties to kind of take a break and a load off and kind of figure out a way to like just slow down a sec. And that could even be for myself. That's like going for a walk without technology and just like watching some birds or some trees like float in the wind, or like finding a pond and just sitting there, and also just getting good sleep and like all these things. Because like at the end of the day, like, I did say that, like, what are you waiting for? You need to continue and push whatever. You don't have an infinite number of time. But then, I guess reflection point, whatever, like, life at the end of the day is not about the hard work. It's just kind of about appreciating the world around you and what was kind of given, you know? Just like slowing down and fighting against the, like, I call it like some societal pull. Like, at least in the Western world, we're kind of convinced and conditioned that in order to live a fulfilling life, you have to keep pushing and keep like ascending some societal hard work rank, when in reality, like, you don't have to. You can kind of opt out and find a nicer harmony with the world and slow down. Especially because if you keep going and keep trying to ascend, this goes into reflection point 3 million now, I think we're on. Like, your expectations, I've learned, and what you have for others and what you have for your own self truly dictate your happiness and contentness in life. If you expect a lot out of someone and they don't deliver, you're going to be quite disappointed. If you're expecting to get some award or application, I don't know, an example, and you really like expecting it and you don't get it, you're going to be disappointed. Or on the other hand, you can kind of expect little and just kind of be content with some decisions. It doesn't necessarily mean you like want the like nothing good to happen, but like you're kind of just not afraid for the best outcome not to come, and you're okay with it. And as a result, your expectations are like down here, and then when something good actually happens, it's like up here, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, the most like mundane things become fantastic. But if as soon as you're expecting the world, like, it's just gonna hurt you in the end when you don't get your way. So yeah, expect little, and everything extra is just a bonus. And in terms of like kind of living your life, some visual I had in my head is kind of like your expectations are here, I don't know, for whatever. And maybe you're achieving like up here, and as you're going through time, you're raising your expectations, but that's because your situation is also raising. So essentially, that may be a bad visual, but essentially, you are raising your expectations slower or at the same rate as your kind of circumstances in your life. Because if you raise them too fast, then that's when you get burned. And it's easier said than done, of course. It takes like practice. But I think at the end of the day, like, you can't control much in your life. The only thing you can control is your reaction to it. And one of those reaction components, I guess, is like your expectations. So you can control your expectations. And that kind of goes into, honestly, to me, this is like the most astounding, I don't know, I think incredible revelation I've had. And I think it exists in all facets of life. And everywhere you look, you will find this idea. And that's in the relative nature of the human mind. And I think I will want to make an entire video on this at some point. But in short, what I mean by that is the human brain gets conditioned. Suppose you're, I think the easiest to explain this is with like rich people. Rich people have a lot of money. And they can kind of buy whatever they want. So like a gift of like a coffee maker is shitty. But to someone that doesn't have a lot and they don't have a coffee maker, it's like the best thing in the world. They're like, oh my goodness, this is gonna help me out so much. And it's amazing. Maybe another example is, it's such a hard thing to articulate. I should have reflected more on it too, better, but I'll try. It'll come. Suppose you're, this is from like a book I read a while ago, but suppose you're on a like baseball team and you get paid a lot of money to play, but not as much as the star player, right? Relative to the greater society, that mediocre baseball income is like a lot of money compared to like just the average Joes of the world. However, you kind of, when you're in that position, you feel like you're not worth a lot, or like you kind of are like, I want more, because there's this star player that earns far more than you, and you kind of are always comparing and contrasting. So regardless of you actually making like a lot of money, you are stuck in your kind of relative sphere of comparison, and you're failing to kind of see the grander picture of it all. I think it also comes, I just think, there's a couple examples, but I can make a whole video on it. But another idea I think is very prominent is kind of a social media conversation, and kind of what that does to individuals. Because human beings without social media and technology before, their relative circle of comparison was very like tight-knit and small, and not everyone was like good at everything, if that makes sense. Like you were maybe able to have some expertise in something and feel good about, I don't know, you're good at like soccer. But then like social media, you now have um, a very large pool of comparison, and you stop to kind of uh, I don't know, relatively in this pool, like you become like dog shit. And I think that leads to a lot of like sadness and stuff because you're just like, oh geez, that I'm not good at I'm not good at or I'm not this pretty. I'm not traveling the world. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And you kind of get trapped just comparing in this massive relative sphere where what if you just compared in your small tiny sphere between you and your friends? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna make a video on this. But um yeah, another one reflection point is life without relationships is difficult. How are you fostering your relationships? And these relationships don't even have to be with people. They could be with yourself, with nature, with your dog. Like, it could be anything, but I think what you need is a connection. And without a connection to this world, even if it's just nature, like life can be quite challenging. And it is very helpful to kind of have shoulders to stand on, to rein you in, to calm you down. And I think often we get this idea that it needs to be people, and people are amazing. And I do have wonderful friends as well, but for a lot of the world, I think that's not even possible. They may only have like a couple friends and stuff, which is completely normal, but kind of get scared that that's the only way to foster a relationship. But you can get by with a lot of deeper connections with different things that are not necessarily people. But I mean, people are amazing too if you can get some good connections. Another thing is being sad and depressed, and even for sometimes for no reason, that's completely normal. And you shouldn't be worried that you feel that way, and just kind of know that you're gonna come out of it in the end. And it's literally just part of the journey of life, because those are just your emotions from your brain and chemical imbalances, and they'll kind of reset with time. Who knows why it happened, and sometimes it just does, and you can't really do much about it. And then kind of encompassing the whole like work, life, living, doing things now, whatever, is this idea of, and you've heard this before, everyone has heard this before, but it's like love the journey and not the destination. And I feel like you can really hear that and you're like, okay, cool, whatever. But like, what does that actually mean? I feel like it didn't click for me until later in life. And it has now, because your entire world, your entire life is 99% the journey. You are always on this journey to who knows where. You have some goals, you have aspirations, maybe you're going on a hike to get to the summit. Regardless, like you're always kind of moving, you know, and like 99% of your time is spent there. And they're just like, or 99.999% of your time is spent there. And then there's like these tiny blips where you maybe achieve that thing and you get there. And you're like, ah, yes, this is awesome, I finished. But then it's over. Like, that's the key part. The destination ends very fast. So if you can kind of reorient your brain to start appreciating just the time spent in the gym, the time spent working on some assignments, which is difficult. The time spent just hanging out with loved ones, or the time spent going on the hike, like that is kind of the brain space you kind of want to play in. It's not about finishing it, because finishing stuff is just fleeting, and it's important to just appreciate the journey, because that's what all life is a journey. Um, Another thing I would also say is another reflection point is asking for opportunity in life. I think this is incredibly important, but incredibly frightening, but it's a great skill to have and a great thing to do, is just ask. You don't think, usually you don't think that it's going to result in anything like of help. Like it's not going to give you it's not going to give you the chance, but sometimes it will. Like I've cold knocked on some professors' doors before to ask them for like summer research work, and they were more than happy to find some, just figure that out, you know. But it just was very frightening to actually go on and do that. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. I think the very first couple of times you kind of ask for opportunity gets scary. And I think even like just straight cold emailing people works. Like just, if you don't think that you have a chance, do it, because again, luck could be on your side. And the more you do it, the luckier you can get. But just do it in a manner that's respectful. Like, why does it matter if you're super respectful and nice and you ask for something? The worst they can say is no, probably respectfully as well. So if there's something that you're kind of wanting from, or an opportunity to do XYZ, just ask for it. It's not a big deal, you know. Yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm just thinking now. Yeah, and sometimes the world feels like it moves very fast as well. And like life feels like it goes very fast. But an interesting thing as well is you can just fight back by just not moving with it. You know, you can just sit and chill for a sec and not like succumb to this like gripping force that's overwhelming of have to keep going and going and going. Like this is kind of like taking a break portion. Like, you know, you're allowed to do that, contrary to popular online influencer belief. You don't have to grind every waking hour of your life. You can take a breath. It's okay. Breathe right now, please. And that kind of even goes to like the little influencer parts of stuff. Kind of goes into another part. Like we like to idolize people that are kind of exceptionally great in specific areas of life. We like to idolize them. But by doing so, we are not even, or like, and in doing so, we're not even acknowledging maybe the areas of life where they may lack. And that's maybe sounds harsh, but it's true. Like, you can't be, like, there's no free lunch in this world. And what, and I guess that's an analogy that I know very well. But what I mean in this context is an individual can't be, like, everything. Like very rarely do you find someone that's able to balance absolutely everything and like be exceptional in every single area. Like that's incredibly uncommon. And most of the time, if someone is very exceptional in one area, I feel like they have to sacrifice something else. And I feel like in general, it comes in like with respect to like family time and like maybe friends. Because I like a lot of the online influence, like this is examples in my mind, it's kind of just like work hard, work hard, work hard. But like they never they fail to talk about like the other important facets of life of just like friends having a connection to the world and like finding more of a balance, but that's just because they're the extreme of like optimizing for like hard work and excellence, hence why they're not good at the other things. But we think that we can follow them and also maybe like have a balance of like, and we could follow and like maybe become them, but then also have like a family balance and whatever. But realistically, it's like no, you can you can adopt the hard work mentality, but like you can't go like 1000% into it without sacrificing other aspects. So basically, this reflection point is just kind of like be wary of kind of idols. You know, they can be so great, but ponder what they might be lacking too, because it could be something that you deeply care about. And don't be afraid to also question and have your opinion on this stuff, because like you're allowed to form an opinion just like I did. Um, Another interesting point and reflection point that I have is this kind of flows nicely. Contrary to popular belief, almost every like issue is not just like yes or no or black and white or up and down. Like there's not like necessarily two discrete like options that could take. Like almost every conversation and like especially like maybe contentious issues, like there's a lot of nuance to it and a lot of um it's just like a spectrum. It's a gray, you know, it's a mixture of the two extremes usually, because I don't know, and I think you just see it a lot more and more in our modern world because you have technology that loves to, and people are using it, they just love to label stuff. So you just have either you are this or you're that. There's no way you can be in between. And I don't agree with that worldview. I think a lot of the times the answer is in between. And it's a shame that we are so reactive to kind of dismiss conversations because we just think like, I don't know, we just like the lump. I don't know. We just like the lump. So be aware. You know, a lot of stuff is great. Let people speak. Listen to them. Have a conversation. Don't just assume stuff. Um, right away. Um, this video is getting pretty long. Another reflection that I have is I personally think that we live in, it sounds crazy to say honestly, but I think we live in one of the hardest times in human history in terms of just like mental well-being. And maybe not like the hardest, because I mean there's always the extremes of like, yeah, well, like just poverty and like whatever. But if I like maybe contain that to like what I know best, like the Western world, and maybe the dawn of like the economies that we have today. um I think we live in like the hardest time for mental well-being, and I mean proof is in the pudding in terms of like rise of depression and anxiety, but I think it just makes sense. I mean, we have trillion-dollar companies that are investing billions of dollars to get you addicted to devices, and we have to kind of somehow fight back with our feeble brain to not give in. Like that is almost impossible to do. And it's kind of, I don't know, I just feel for a lot of, I don't know, it's just, I think it's just so difficult, you know? It's hard to win because there's just so many forces at bay trying to grab your attention, doing this and that and XYZ, and it's hard to filter out the noise if you have like already became susceptible to it, you know? That's another reflection I have. I mean, all these ideas I can expand upon more in a different video, but I guess I should just maybe, these are quicker reflections. Another reflection is you have to persist long enough for exponential growth to take over. Sheesh. To me, this is one of the biggest ideas that I have here. And it's difficult to articulate, but basically, like, everything in our world is exponential growth. If you're trying to learn something new, for instance, the first many times that you try that, you're not going to get very far. And then suddenly, exponential growth is going to take over, you know? So this is like what I think about. So it's like these are the first, maybe that was your first attempt period, your second attempt, your third attempt, and I think most people like stop, you know, most people stop here, but they fail to wait maybe their eighth attempt, where suddenly now you're like, oh, I've improved, you know, I've I've gotten like much better from where I started, but they were like waiting, you know, you have to wait through this period, and then they quit. But it's like, what if you just kept going and you got here? Then you're like, oh my goodness, and then the next couple times you're like up here now because your brain starts to adapt, and it's like an exponential system of adaptation, of learning, and you just need to kind of wait and let it take over. You can't quit right before it takes over, because it's like, no, no, just keep going. I love that idea, and I could make a whole video about that. I guess another thing I have is, maybe this is more personal stuff. I don't drink alcohol, but I think alcohol is honestly not needed in our world to have fun. And I understand it's like a social lubricant and stuff, and it maybe like helps people have anxiety to communicate and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, I also wasn't the biggest social interactor, but through just years of experiencing like parties and stuff without alcohol, like I can talk to people without alcohol, you know, and they can be drinking and stuff, it doesn't matter. But I just think it's important to kind of experience the raw human emotions and let yourself wade through your emotions, and it's very painful to do that, but I think that's where you actually get the growth of in your brain and your mind, is when you are experiencing these. But another reflection that I have as well is this kind of goes back to the very first reflection point, if you've been staying this whole time, but be kind to yourself, to others, to the world, because your end will be here too, and you can't take literally anything with you. You can't take nothing with you. Nothing. No money, no projects, no I don't know, what else would you want to take with you? Your favorite food? But it's not what you can take with you, it's about what you can leave behind. And what you can leave behind is impact on people. They are still here. And if you've impacted a bunch of people through just kindness and generosity, like, that is the thing that persists through time. And I think it's very important to just remember to be kind. And, like, kind of, to me, with like death in sight, I really fail to understand a lot of like the nearsighted behavior in terms of like wars and whatever, because that's such a selfish thing to do, because the leaders only want self-gain. And to do what though? Because they're going to die. Like, I don't understand that component of it, but it's just human nature, you know. We just want more and more, and we don't really project into our demise. But I think if you do, you can start to look back and realize, oh no, like, I should just be nice to people, because exerting power over them is not going to get me anything, because I'm just going to die. What if we all just like lived in harmony? I don't know. It's easy. It's too hard to convince those people though of that. Maybe you can reflect on that a little bit. Another interesting thing, I think, and then we're getting to the end near, is to kind of make plans, and don't be afraid to, you know, reach out to those people that you haven't talked to in a while and make those plans, because at the end of the day, like, they are also part of the societal grind. It's easy to lose sight of what kind of matters in terms of like relationships and stuff. And I think it's a good idea to kind of put your annoyance aside if they haven't reached out for a while, and just be like, okay, it doesn't matter. We know we both enjoy hanging out with each other. Let's get something going and make a connection. Because I think it's easy for a lot of people to not reach out because they just forget to, or they're busy, they're preoccupied in their life, and they need to get someone to pull them out into the world that matters. And I guess I have only a couple things left to say, but isn't the end goal of all of our life just to have happiness and just well-being? Don't we all just want peace, shelter, food, water, some connection? Why are we so annoyed at different groups of people, or like angry and fight and argue? Like, I think like we all just want the same thing at the end of the day, and that is, I guess, my final reflection of my 25 years of living. Like, we all just want the best for everybody. Well, not actually, that's not true. Some people don't want the best for other people. What I meant to say is we all just want happiness, you know, ourselves. So we can find a way to give it to others, because I think that's what's really important. And also just making use of your time, you know, enjoy the nature, but then make a fulfilling life for yourself. Figure out something you're passionate about, and strive for um, something you're proud of, you know. But don't even necessarily like make it your end goal. Just like do the journey because you enjoy it, because you're learning something new, because you're engaging with the world, because you're painting, because the journey lets you show your stuff with your friends and family, the process. Lean into that. You know, you don't have to just be so end goal focused and be trapped to just have to only work and do this stuff. You can kind of escape and help others escape. Let yourself uh, be kind and generous, you know? So what? You're spending extra money to hang out with people, and maybe you bought them some food or whatever. If it makes them smile, maybe it's worth it. Um, but yeah, so these are my reflections of a 25-year-old. I have a lot more probably, but um, not probably. I know for a fact I have a lot more. But these kind of ideas have really shaped my later later years, and I think have and are hopefully are setting me up for a good happy future, because so far it certainly has felt that way. I've used to be a very uh, depressed and sad individual, but I've kind of found my way forward. And I think I even found my way forward, and I didn't even have it in the reflections. I don't think I should have. I think I was going to talk about it. I think I found my way forward just because exercise. And that sounds crazy, but I think that's a whole nother video in itself. But exercise truly has, like, it changed my life. It got me out of that rut that I was in, and let me blossom into a beautiful butterfly into uh, my future. So this is my reflections video. I really appreciate you listening, whomever you are, or just hello to my future self. I hope that you are not looking back on these ideas in disgust. I don't think you will. I think they're pretty sound ideas. But anyway, take care. My name's Matthew, signing off.